Hello and welcome to How to Survive Healthcare. I am Kayla Thompson-Riviere. I have over a decade of experience as an RN in the ER and ICU. Now I'm helping people as a dedicated advocate.
And I'm Nicole Broadhurst, a healthcare billing specialist and financial advocate, here to make sure you're not paying more than you owe.
We're here to share the insider tips and tricks you need to navigate the healthcare system, avoid common pitfalls, and get the care you deserve.
Because no one should feel lost or overwhelmed when it comes to their health.
Now, it is important to note that the information we share on this podcast is based on our experience and research, but it's not intended to replace professional medical advice. But whether you're a patient or a caregiver, you're in the right place. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. How are you this morning, Nicole?
I'm well, thank you very much. How are you, Kayla?
Well, better now that we've figured out technology. Good God, y'all. We've been trying to get this recorded for 55 minutes now.
Tech's great when it works.
Oh my goodness. I'm so jealous of the podcasters who, have all of the money to just have a real studio and like fly people in to just be there in studio. Looking at you, Daniel
Right.
Tosh. Share some of that so we can fly in Nicole once a month and record these. But anyway, Nicole.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. The price of prescription drugs. It is just going up.
Right?
What's with that?
It's crazy. It's crazy. So really, I think we need about 3 days dedicated to just sitting and talking about this, because this is such a question. In fact, Kayla, when we first talked about bringing this topic on, my initial response was, oh my gosh, that's just so much. I just don't even know what that looks like. So you were gracious. We took some time. I looked at it, and I really think that there's 3 main contributing factors to why these prescription drug prices are so insane. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of them, but I think the 3 are really government regulation, patents, drug patents, and then the third are pharmacy benefit managers, which
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, that is like, we're not going to talk about pharmacy benefit managers today. Okay, you guys, because I think,
but we will sit tight.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It is coming. But today we're really going to talk about some of the government regulations that are causing prices to increase. And we're also going to talk about how manufacturers are leveraging patents to also increase the price. So I think the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is this overall role of pharmaceutical manufacturers, like the companies that make these medications. There's some information here that I think is really important for us to know. Prescription drug prices statistically are rising at a much more rapid rate than other inflation. I just want to put that out there. So that really, it's not that we're just perceiving that to be true. It's statistically proven that it is true. The other piece that I wanted to share is that the typical profit margin for a drug manufacturer runs between 15 and 20%. Okay, profit margin. Now, if you're in the business world, you know that other industries run profit margins somewhere between 4 and 9%.
All right, so we're talking about like doubling here.
At least, right? And that's being conservative, right? So, and those numbers, again, I didn't make those up. Those are actually coming out of the GAO office, which is the Government Accountability Office. Okay. So this is on the radar for the GAO, and they know that this is happening. The reason that I think this is really important for us to be aware of is because a lot of the claims around why prices are so high is because it costs so much for a manufacturer to do research and development, right?
Right.
We talk about R&D and how much money it costs for them to actually do all of the testing and actually bring a medication to market. And so we're kind of fed or led to believe that that's where the expense is, and that's why these meds are so expensive, right?
Sure.
However, we know that their profit margin is like crazy high. And we also know statistically that these manufacturers are spending more money on marketing than they are
Mm,
R&D, research and development. And again,
you
these are
have
all
those
publicly
numbers?
available numbers. You know what? I don't have the exact number. I might have it somewhere, but I don't want to waste time looking for it. It is on, yeah, I don't have the link right here. We can put that, we
I
can get
know
the
it's a
link and we can
lot.
put it, yeah. Yes, it is. And just common sense tells you that you know how much they're spending on marketing. How many of our commercials on mainstream
TV
media are,
commercials are
yeah,
medications. It's
yeah,
wild.
it
Guys, just
is.
to put
And
this in perspective, in case you don't know, they don't do this in other countries. This is a
no,
very American thing. There is one other country that allows direct to
yes,
consumer pharmaceutical advertising. I believe it's New Zealand. Am I right on that?
yes, good. You are right on.
But
Good
they
job.
have a lot more regulation around it than we do. I mean, if you actually just so I don't have cable TV. So it's extra bizarre to me because I only stream. So when I do like come across a TV on and I see all these commercials, sometimes it's like every other commercial. And
Hmm.
it's like when
It's
you take a
insane.
step back from it for a while and then you see it again, it's really weird. And it's like,
Yeah.
why? Like, I don't feel like that's where the conversation of pharmaceuticals should start is you just seeing an ad on the television. I had one time I was visiting my parents, and so was my grandmother, and there was an ad. There was an ad on TV for I forget what drug it was, but it was for fibromyalgia. And my grandmother is watching this, and then she goes, you know, do you I have aches and pains. Do you think I should get that medicine for maybe I have fibromyalgia? I said, "No, grandma, you're just like 70 and you need to walk more." So, but that's a kind of funny story, but
Yeah.
it really just goes to show that that line of
Right.
thinking is exactly what they're preying upon. And they
Yeah.
hope that you'll see this drug and then you'll go ask your doctor about
Your
it
doctor for
when
it. That's
really
right.
right, when really what it should be is you talk to your doctor about what troubles you're having and then they can steer you
Yes.
into what's going to be the right choice. So that
Right.
that all the money on marketing right there, that it's
Yes.
predatory. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
It's predatory. Not only is it costly.
It is.
So
Right.
there was a little
I
tangent.
agree.
Sorry, get back to your
I know, right?
previously
No, that's
scheduled.
okay. No, that's totally okay because this is exactly why we're talking about like what's driving these prices, and marketing
Yeah.
is one of them,
Yeah,
right? It is
and it's
because
a multifaceted issue, and then it just drives again. It's predatory marketing.
yes, right? It is. And so that kind of leads us into okay, so we know that, one of the claims is, and we're led to believe that it's because of research and development. Now we know that the profit margins are crazy high. They're spending more on marketing than they are research and development. So now we got to talk about like this balance between innovation and profitability because, of course, when you bring a new anything to market in our world of capitalism, it makes sense that you need to make money on it. So it's not that we don't want them to make money, but it's the percentage that they're making, right? So we're kind of
Right.
now looking into like, okay, so how does that work? Like, why is that profit margin so much higher in pharmaceutical manufacturing over every other industry? Well,
And to be
one
clear,
of
if the emphasis is on research and development, and this is we're told where all of the money is, then logically, then you would think that that increased profit margin would go back to the people doing that research and development to reward them. But is it?
right. No, it's in dividends and it's going back to investors is where that's going. And that's just the way that's set up. And again, you can look at, the profits and the the annual reports and all of the things of the manufacturers to substantiate that. But I think that, again, it's not like we don't want them to make profit. Like, it's okay to do that. We're just interested in why we're paying so much. And so, that's just one of the areas, right? Is that they spend a lot on marketing. And don't forget that a lot of the research and development, there's also public funds that are used to sponsor a lot of those clinical trials and all of those things too. So it's kind of, anyway, it's interesting. And I think that is, I don't want to go too deep into that.
So just to clarify, does that mean we already paid for it with our taxes and now we're also paying the higher price at the pharmacy?
Sometimes it does.
Okay.
Sometimes it does. But again, that's just a part of the problem. And that's why I'm like, we have so much time. We're just kind of like talking about the big things here. So marketing, R&D, that really kind of gets into what that looks like, the regulations. I wanted to talk about, before we get into patents, because those are like their own little thing. I wanted to talk about the government regulations, right? So we talked about the industry itself, and we know that they have a really high profit margin and how they're using their money, and that's great. There are government regulations that also, and Kayla, you talked about this just a minute ago. We are only one of 2 countries that allow consumer marketing of pharmaceuticals. And so, is there an opportunity to have some policy change there to redirect some of those funds and expenses and bring down pricing? The other place is, and we're seeing movement in this area as far as like Medicare being able to negotiate some medication prices. We are seeing that roll out. It's slow, but it's sure. So it is happening. But for decades, that was something that Medicare couldn't do. And so Medicare was subject to paying whatever price is set, because that's the other thing. Manufacturers set their own pricing, right? There's no regulated pricing structure for medications. And then, of course, the FDA's role in drug approval and market competition and all of those things. And those are really policy issues. And so it kind of gets into, I know you and I do more consumer and patient advocacy directly. And these are really policy issues. And there is a whole set of advocates that are focused on policy advocacy to help shape some of this. So we are seeing some movement in that area, right? I know. If you're interested, either as an advocate or a patient, you can join these organizations, and we'll talk a little bit more about those towards the end. I really kind of want to get into,
You just mentioned a moment ago that the FDA and their role is helping to contribute to the increase in price. How does that work?
Yeah. So there are, I've got my notes here, and I'm sorry if I'm going to look down because there's so much that I wanted to remember to say. I've got tons of notes. So the FDA is responsible for ensuring that that medications are safe and efficient, right? Efficacy for new drugs before they're allowed to the market, right? So there is a rigorous approval process, which is essential, right? But it can also delay competition, because not only is it a long process to bring a medication to market, any subsequent generics also have to go through that process. Okay. And so it takes a long time for that process of getting approved. There are also exclusivity periods that are granted to brand name drugs. The FDA grants an exclusive period for them to be available. And then, of course, there's a backlog. Don't be surprised. Like, the FDA has a huge backlog of generic drug approvals that are actually in the pipeline that just haven't gotten through the process yet.
Guys, if you don't know, the FDA does not have the size and the power that we might offhand think that it does. Especially when you look at from the time that it was formed to where we are and like the amount of medical technology that's just exploding. the FDA has not grown with it.
Right, right. And then that's just not even including, so there's a backlog, just fundamentally, right? There's a backlog. But then in addition to that, we see lawsuits filed that extend the process and a lot of like administrative things that can be done to continue to delay that process.
Do you
Okay.
mean
And so,
administrative things by the drug companies?
yes,
Mm,
yes.
so they
Yeah.
can
And we're
delay
going to like,
competition.
yes. And that's a great segue into patents and how that is used and leveraged to delay competition in medications. So
You know
there's
what,
several.
Nicole? I think you're right. This is such a complicated topic. I want to give patents its own day.
Nice.
We're
Okay.
gonna, yeah, we're gonna break this into multiple parts. That way
I love it.
you can cover it to the depth that it needs it. So, focusing on then just the policies and whatnot today, is there anything else you want to add to what you've brought up here?
Let me go back to those notes. I don't think so. I think I kind of hit on like the big things of what that looks like from a regulation and governmental perspective, and how that gets slowed down. I'm just looking. Yes. The only other thing that I could talk, well, really, I think highlighting in this conversation is the generics and also including biosimilars, um, which I know that's a whole other piece, but we did talk about how the manufacturing organizations are really getting into this approval process and then manipulating and leveraging our system to prevent anyone from bringing something else to market that will create competition. And
Mm-hmm.
really, I think that's the big message for today, I think. And it's really more about awareness. Like, I don't even know what we would do, right? I think that the big call to action here is, if you want to know more and you want to understand more, come back. We're going to do a couple more episodes. But then in addition to that, go do your own research and just start looking at what's really actually happening behind the cost of prescription medications. We've got more information that's coming, but I think that's the call to
Yeah,
action for
more to
today.
come. Stay tuned. So, Nicole, for the
Yes.
listener who's like, okay, great, thanks for letting me know about the problems. What can I do right now while I'm waiting on policy change?
Right. I love this. There are organizations for patients where you can get involved in some of these fights, for lack of a better term. I use that word because one of the organizations is fightpharma.org. And the other one is Patients for Affordable Drugs. So you can get involved in some grassroots organizations that are focused on assisting policy change to improve our pocketbook. I know that dates me, but our wallet, right? And how much we're spending on these. And then in addition to that, I think the biggest things that we can do as patients and consumers is we can shop for our medications. Like, if you don't hear anything else, this is my suggested takeaway is make sure that you are at least shopping around for the best price on your medications. And specifically, that means asking what the cash price is, because a lot of times your cash price will be lower than what it is to run through your insurance. We'll get to why, but right now, that's the truth. So at least look at it. And then look at small independent pharmacies, and see if you can get better pricing at a local pharmacy. We're seeing, anyway, see if you can do that because a lot of times they have better pricing. The other thing is check out independent, well, really, it's just independent pharmacies,
Okay.
whichever ones they are. Personally, I like Amazon, but pick out what
Oh,
you want to
and
use.
that one guy, He's got some medications
Oh
now
yeah,
too.
Cuban. Yeah, Mark
Yeah,
Cuban.
yeah,
Yeah, he's got cost plus drugs, and
that's
I
what
was
it is.
on there. Yeah, I was just on there, and it's great for a lot of these generic, very common medications. For those of you that are on albuterol, those can run like $100 for an inhaler. You can get them at cost plus drugs for 17 and some change plus shipping.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay, well, thank you, Nicole. This is definitely a part one of a multi-part series. I don't know how many parts it'll end up being. This might end up just being a regular installment as we just continue to bring updates. So look out for that. We do have quite a few holiday type episodes scheduled out for December because lots of issues come up around the holidays. So moving into the new year, we'll go into part 2 of our prescription drug prices, and we will go from there. So thank you for listening. Thank you for bringing this to us, Nicole.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about it.
Absolutely. And we're so happy you're here on the podcast now.
I'm
And
excited to
guys,
be here. Thank you.
yes, we will see you next week. Bye bye.